Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday, it's April the 9th. This will be a chart lesson today. There's a couple of different ways to look at it today. First of all, before I say anything, it's FOMC day, or not necessarily FOMC day, but there was a Fed announcement at 1 o'clock today. And this is typical of what happens on Fed days. Those are high volatility news items that always send the market into a frenzy, and today was no different. And you notice how we spent the majority of the day right here in this section of this trading range. There really was a smaller range here, and you can see that, and then we broke higher into a larger range. I actually think most of your price action was right across here. We broke lower a couple of times, but there's actually a larger channel here that we were following up that you couldn't really find that until we made this next swing right here. I mean, you could have found it because I had the line on here from down here, but I had it a little bit higher, and it still worked. You see, most people must have been looking at that because when it bounced there, but then we ended up going a little lower, and I ended up adjusting it down to right here, and you see, and then there's a midline, and then your upper line's here, and we kind of overshot that a couple of times to the upside, and sometimes that means you may have another line up here, but needless to say, there was a channel working up, and then the news came out at 1 o'clock, and from there it broke out and went straight up, and there's just a bigger channel with a midline now. And that's not common to see that. Usually you're more apt to see a real steep trend that shallows out and then continues on more than you are a narrow trend. But things kind of worked backwards today. Generally, anytime, most days when there's going to be a Fed announcement, that's what will happen. You'll have a tight trading range with not any real direction in the market until the news comes out, and then it's going to go one way or the other. And this shows you right here, the price action doesn't really lie. The price action, still holds. It just usually moves so fast, you don't have a whole lot of time to think about it. So, but that's what I saw, and I wanted to share something with you. Another trader sent me. He sent me this, and it was interesting that it pretty much finds this same channel here, and it's an indicator. It doesn't come standard. It doesn't come standard with your with NinjaTrader, but I've got it, and if you're interested in it, maybe drop me an email. I may just put it on the website somewhere where you can download it or whatever. But if I do, it'll probably be in the premium section for those guys first, and then maybe later on we can share it outside of that. But anyway, I think it's available on the NT forum or somewhere like that, but he just sent it to me. But if you apply it, you can see it basically gives you that same range that I was trading. And you see that right there. So the indicator actually is the gold lines and the filled in area there, the kind of peakish looking area or whatever it looks like to me maybe. So maybe that would help some of you to figure out whether it's a range or not, or figure out what the range is you need to be paying attention to. If you turn it over here to yesterday, you can see that it pretty much caught those highs and those lows that I had marked on my chart. You go the day before, it looked like a range until here, and then it broke on down. So it might be helpful to some of you that are having a hard time figuring out whether we're looking at a range or a trend or whatever. And again, it's called BTO open and range. So if you're interested in that, drop me an email and I'll try to send it to you. Actually, before you start sending me emails, just wait and I'll try to put it inside the premium section or whatever, and you can download it. And later on I may put it out on the rest of the section or whatever, but I'm going to get it to my premium people first because they're the ones that, they deserve to be able to get to it first. So anyway, Let's talk about what I saw. But again, it basically was just a range until the news came out, and then we broke higher, and there's still a trading range here. I saw a range with the midline. It tends to be holding, and we still seem to be going higher right now. So um, we're up to about 1864. Maybe make a new high before it's over. Um, I doubt we'll get it today, but anyway, let me show you what I saw. And again, if you just, the clue that we're kind of ranging is look how prices are swinging back and forth above and below the EMA. And that really happened until right about here. And from there, we went higher and we never got below the EMA again. So now you're trending and it's a straight up trend. Um, so you know, it's amazing how many people ask me they can't recognize that this is a range across here. It's very clear. I mean, you're constantly going above and below the EMA, and look how flat it is. Sure, it's going up and down a little bit for the most part, though it's straight across the chart there. It's not trending up like this is trending up. That's what a trend looks like. This is what a range looks like. So you got to be able to learn to recognize that, and then usually the overnight high is going to be an important place. The overnight low is going to be an important place. And basically what this turns out to be is the opening range. And I think that's what his, um, that indicator that I showed you is doing. It's basically, it's giving you the opening range from the 8:30 a.m. open until the first 15 minutes or something like that. And that tends to be an important range period until you break out of it. It's kind of a trading range. And but what I find really is more important than even that 15 minutes is the overnight high and the overnight low. When you get to those, that's something important is going to happen there. And you can see what happened every time we got to this overnight high. And then it ends up it acted as resistance and it turned into support, and the market went higher. So I think that's the more important one, is the high and the low. But if I do this manually just by visual looking at it, but I've done it for so long, I never really paid attention to whether, is this the first 15 minutes or whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as you recognize it. So, but, okay, I had a little slight interruption. It's been a little bit, and I can't remember where we left off, but I can't seem to get a video going without some kind of interruption. But let's just go ahead and talk about the trades. Hopefully you see what I'm talking about. We spent most of the day in the range and all that is people are waiting on that news to come out, and it starts to go a little higher here, and then the news comes out, and off it goes. But as you can see, the price action, doesn't really lie. You had a short-term channel here, a break, so you were going to move to a new high anyway, and then it pulls back and takes off. I didn't mark anything after the 1 o'clock, and I made this one green just because it's the news and all that. It can be risky entering around that stuff, but I'll talk about that when we get there. Let's back up, talk about the trades, and I'm going to try to keep this video a little bit shorter today than what we've been doing. And this actually looks a little bit like yesterday. You got a little channel working down, and you can see I came in right around my usual time, a little around 7 or so, and that was on this move up right in here. I'm trying to see where 7 o'clock is, but there wasn't really an opportunity. You might could have entered here if you were trading at that time. It's a first entry, but there's a little matching lows here, and it broke lower and turned up. But 7 o'clock hour came in here, and I didn't like entering here because there's basically a close below the low right here below the trend line, and then you got a big move up, and then you went into congestion and a little failed move. If you took that, let's just see if it works. Entry would have been 50.75, and you see it was a 4-tick failure. So I didn't really like that trade. Only way you could enter this was on a limit order, and I don't think you'd have gotten filled. You might have gotten filled right there at the high because it did close on its high and then open and have to back up. So if you got filled on that limit order, then it worked. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken that trade. I probably wouldn't. I mean, I didn't take it either way. I'll just tell you. So I didn't like it because we're coming out of this trading range right in here too. But this looks like a pretty good trend, but we hadn't been back to the EMA in a while, and this congestion right here is just kind of iffy. So, but I'll go ahead and mark that in green, and with the stipulation of understanding that, you know, if you entered there, it was a little risky, and if you used a limit order, you're great. If you didn't, then you might have got stuck in this trade. But when this ended as a little doji, when it broke higher, and the next one was a doji, that's your clue. Just get out, and you see you had a couple of different chances to get out with a few ticks here. So just get out, or tighten your stop and let the stop take you out. But either way, you could have made a few ticks off that. And you might have even gotten filled if it bumped against your order enough times. You might have gotten filled even on a limit order, but it's doubtful. The only way you know you're going to get filled is if it trades through that limit order. So then you get a first entry, you pull back, you get a second entry, and it fails. But if you're following your short-term trend lines, you know you're not really looking for longs yet. And when that fails, you take a short. And if you did go long right there, when this broke higher and didn't go anywhere and ended as a doji and that's a doji, there's your clue again. Get out. It's telling you something, because this should have taken off on a second entry on a good trend. But notice how that went through the EMA. That's your first clue not to enter right here, because that low's lower. You got like a triple bottom right there, and you went right through it. And I mean, it went through it quick and easy. Okay, had another interruption, but that went right through those lows, right through the EMA. That's a reversal type setup, and then you get your failed second entry long. So I love that, and that's right off those first two swings, right off that trend line of those first two swings. That kind of confirms this downtrend. Easy scalp, and then you get a failed second entry long again. Turns down right there. Another easy scalp. And then, of course, then you bounce off this line. And again, I had that right up there earlier, and it bounces right there. A real aggressive trader might have even gone long there, but I think it was a little bit risky. So I didn't mark that. And I think in the end, this is down here. So maybe even a little bit lower, because that gets you below those closes right there. And that gives kind of equal distance from these highs up here. But this is what a reversal pattern kind of looks like. It didn't really take off like one. It came back and tested that low again. I think there's a little bit of a close outside, but people probably didn't feel like it was a good enough one. So you get your breakout, you move to a new low. But I just don't see a setup in there coming down that I like unless you took that first entry. If you took it, great, but I think it's real aggressive, because you could have went straight on up here. So I didn't like that one. And then by the time you got your second entry here, you got all those overlap, dojis, stems, and it would have worked, but I just didn't like it. So, and then by the time you get to this next entry, you're too close to this trend line. So I didn't like it at all. But then you come down here, you got your break, you got your new low, and you get a little trap. You got a first entry pullback. This is a second entry long right here, and you can see everything closing right there above that line. If you adjusted your line down here, you can see that it's kind of holding prices. And there was also, you probably would have had this line down here at that point, and you can see that's kind of was your range at that point. And really, this may just be a median line in here, and this may be the best part of your range, really, right in here. So I kind of like that look even better, and it's even probably looks like a perfect measured move for the most part. So something else to think about there. There's different reasons to like that long right there. The biggest is that you got the break, the move to a new low, a little bit of a failed move lower, and then look at it take off. Now everybody that was getting short has to exit. And you get your first break of this channel right here, move to a new high, and you got plenty of room to get out before getting up there. I like that as a long. It bothered me a little bit that this was an inside doji, but you got to figure it's going to try to make that new high, and we're not really up to this trend line yet. I really actually thought this might be up here at that point. So And at the end of the day, I think it's right there. So it takes off, easy scalp, and you see it didn't go very far, and then it turns down. But you had to think about this a little bit too. So it's like a failed break higher, and then so that's your second entry right there. And again, it was similar to right here. You get kind of a little inside bar, but I drew that trend line off those first two swings. And so when it broke lower here, this is one I liked using a limit order, a tick or two back in, and it would have worked. You could have gotten filled on a couple of ticks back into that thing, and then it dropped fairly quickly down. And then I think it's too low to be taking any more trades there. Put that back. Just kind of like over here, it's too low, it's too much overlap. And again, an aggressive trader might have thought about going long here, but the reason I don't think you could is there's no break of this channel. And so you get the break and it tries to come back here, but you don't have a whole lot of room. So if you did go short, you got to realize you don't have enough room to get out before getting to this trend line. It may still work, but I don't think it's worth taking. So by sitting tight, then you get a chance to go long, and that's a nice reversal type bar. You get two of them in a row, really, and off it goes to the upside. Then you get the failed second entry short. Notice this is a new low. It's lower swing than all of those coming down. And then look how it goes right through the EMA. And that's another thing. That's kind of what a reversal pattern looks like, kind of like here. And remember we talked about that's why you can't go short here, because it looks kind of like a reversal pattern, and that does. And even though it worked here, it didn't work here. And so that's a good, really learning example. You know, usually when you see a repeat type pattern, and that's looking like a repeat type pattern, it's probably going to do the same thing it did before. So that might have led you to think, hey, I can get short here, and it didn't work this time. So that's why I don't like that, entering on those kind of moves. It looks like a reversal, and most reversals, you know, you're not going to get a short out of. You want to be thinking the other way. And so just go long there. Took it a little bit of work up, and then you notice the new low, first entry short, pull back second entry short. And this is kind of like we've already broke a little higher, so you figure you're going to get another new high here on this one. It's kind of working up. And plus now you should easily see this channel, and you might have even, and you probably would have dropped it down here. You might have even still had it up here a little higher, like so. So there's plenty of room, even if you got it here and you take that one. And it's a trap too, so you know you're probably going to get a nice move out of it. And it does, it moves pretty quickly, and then it just chops back and forth down. I don't see any way to enter that. But it's getting too close to the 1 o'clock. You need to be on the sidelines now. And 1 o'clock comes out, and you pull back to this trend line right here. You get a first entry short, a pull back, a second entry short, and it fails. That's right at the 1 o'clock, and they just trapped people, and it turns and goes up. So if you were paying attention and, you know, and you had enough time, just put you a buy stop right there, and that was an easy trade. Any runners would have been good, and you could have ridden this to who knows where, you know, at least to the first correction, which would have been, actually your first correction would have been here, so you could have at least ridden it to there, and maybe even wait on a second entry or something. So who knows? But depending on how you manage your runners, I usually look for an exit on the opposite side, and so I probably would have exited right there at these highs right here. So, but that's what I saw today. Kind of slow, typical day, a little trading range kind of day until the news came out, and we're still going higher as of now. So that's typical of a lot of times, though. You get these news items, they come and take it back real quickly. I mean, they didn't do that today. There's only 15 minutes left in this trading day, but it's looking like, and there's actually another, I didn't even mark it, but there's another shorter term trend kind of working up there. And notice we got the break, the new high, and then you get a correction. And then you got a little trend working down through here. It's probably more like that right there, and you're working down, and you get a little break finally here, move to a new low, and boom. That one might even, you might even could call it that right there. And if you do look at it, let's see what we can find on the lower side. Just in case any of you were still looking at this. That's probably more like it right there. So you really don't get a break here and move to a new low. The market's just too strong. So, but anyway, that's what I saw today. I'm going to wrap this one up. We've got about 20 minutes worth here. Again, if you're interested in that, what's it called? BTO open range. There it is. And you can see that there. Pretty much pretty close to that midline that I gave you. This line's pretty much right on. So it's an interesting, it may help some of you. I still believe in learning how to do it manually, seeing it with your eyes. And you can see that there's kind of a two-tiered range right there. And I mean, that's pretty obvious. All you got to do is just play with the lines. And the more you do this, the better you get at it. And that looks a little messy in there, but you wouldn't have all that on there at one time other than the fact that I'm teaching it. So, I have to put it on there to show it to you. So, but I'm going to wrap. Hey, it's Mac again. I forgot a couple of housekeeping things that I wanted to mention is that I'm not going to be I'm not going to trade Friday. I'm going to try to trade tomorrow, but I'm going to be leaving town Thursday afternoon. So depending on whether or not I actually trade or not and what time I get through trading and what time I have to leave town, which I don't know yet. I'm still waiting for my wife to tell me when we need to leave. So there may not be a chart lesson tomorrow. Definitely won't be one Friday. I'll be out of town Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So probably won't be answering emails unless there's an emergency over the weekend either. And I hope everybody finishes out the week well. And we'll be back to do it on Monday. But my daughter has cheer competition down in Florida next week. So I will be down there, or this weekend, I'm sorry. So I will be down there and won't be trading on Friday. And I plan to come in and trade tomorrow. And if I have time, I'll do the chart lesson tomorrow. But if there's not one tomorrow, you know why. And you'll know exactly why there's not one on Friday either. So hope everybody has a good wrap up on their week. And maybe we'll see you tomorrow, but maybe it'll be Monday. So we'll just have to see. But I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac. We'll see you next time.